This is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Kings' 7-game home winning streak is over. They lost to the Rockets last night, 127-101. James Harden's streak of consecutive games with 30-plus points extended to 28. He had 36 points. Buddy Hield had a team high for the Kings, 20 points and 10 rebounds. Sacramento's off today before hosting Dwayne Wade and the Miami Heat tomorrow. The Kings were also active ahead of the NBA trade deadline, which hits at noon today. They made a couple of deals, one sending Iman Shumpert to Houston as part of a 3-team trade with the Cavs. Sacramento acquired shooting guard Alec Burks from Cleveland. Later on in the evening, the Kings sent Justin Jackson and Zach Randolph to Dallas in exchange for forward Harrison Barnes. We'll have breakdowns of those trades and any others throughout today right here on Sports 1140. It's 8:02. Time to get that perfect Valentine's Day gift at Sharif Jewelers. Spend $99 or more and receive a pearl bracelet at Sharif Jewelers. Those are your top stories. Now back to the drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
Wait, what?
Everybody, listen up.
Welcome to The Drive.
Morning, morning, morning.
You're gonna talk.
Get on the phone at 339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The Drive starts now.
I say something stupid, silly. Why not? I do it all the time. I love my job, but there are days where I love my job more than normal. Get to do this for a living. Talk to Jack, talk to Sam Amick coming up in just a second. Talk about the Sacramento Kings being relevant and making trades to push for the playoffs. Kyle, you're okay? I mean, we get paid to do this, and we appreciate each and every one of you that tune in. You have many different things you could be doing, podcasts, Regis and Kathy Lee or whatever the hell. You can play.
I don't think Regis and Kathy Lee has been a show since like 1996.
It's not. Okay, Phil Donahue and his talk show.
1977.
Whatever, Kyle, you get my point. You have many, many options, and you choose to listen to us, even if you don't want to. And we appreciate that. We appreciate your phone calls on the Firewings hotline at 1-800-920-1140. We appreciate your texts on the Jiffy Lube text line at 441140. Mark Followill will join us. He is the play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks. We'll talk to him about the newest Sacramento King, Harrison Barnes. Thought there were some interesting notes talking to Jack Cooley also about Alec Burks and what he could mean to this ball club, kind of the forgotten man.
Yeah, like that he just dropped that in there. He's like, oh, yeah, and I played with Alec Burks.
Right. I'm surprised you didn't. But, I played with Alex Burks. I'm Jack Cooley.
Alec.
What did I say, Alex?
Yeah.
Alec. Like Alec Baldwin.
Right.
Sir Alec Guinness.
Alec Smith.
No, it's not ALECXMITH. It's not Alec Smith. I think we're done with our Alex.
Hang on.
Alec.
Alda.
No. Alec Xander Graham Bell. Jack Cooley's going to make a good broadcaster if he wants to, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt.
He's just one of those dudes that it's like, that guy's going to succeed. Like, whatever he decides to do, he's going to succeed at it.
If you want to say hi, people are asking. Jack Cooley's Twitter account is Jack Cooligan. That's COOLIGAN 45 at Jack Cooligan 45. I wouldn't mind.
Send him a tweet. Let him know that you love him.
Yeah, exactly. I know he just bought a house too. I wouldn't mind Jack. Jack should spend summers in Sacramento and just come in and hang out with us all summer.
If he wanted to do that, like,
that'd be awesome.
Would anyone be upset by it?
I don't know. We could pay. We could pay him in like Cliff Bars, but
I'll buy breakfast.
Not much of a budget here. If you want to watch the video cast as well, you can at KHTK.com. Laptop, desktop, right at the top of your screen, middle of the screen. If you are on a phone, all video casts archived at KHTK's YouTube channel, brought to you by Jiffy Lube and the Sacramento Republic. And, of course, you can listen to the audio on the KHTK app that you can download, audio on demand. And usually the entire show is up while the show's going on, hour by hour, and the entire show's loaded up usually by 10 a.m. Kyle is very, very good at that. So the Sacramento Kings trade in effect, Iman Shumpert, Justin Jackson, and Zach Randolph. They receive Harrison Barnes and Alec Burks in separate deals, along with a conditional second-round pick. I think at some point we have so many second-round picks at some draft in the future. We're just going to be on the clock we're just going to have I think Vlad is trying to get the entire second round of some future draft, where it's just completely us, which is fine. Second-round picks, they're commodities, whether it's for the players themselves or also to fit in as part of trades as well. So I wouldn't shake my head at that. We'll get to LeBron James and Kevin Durant's comments towards the bottom of the hour as well. Right now from The Athletic, I told you I had a surprise, Kyle. He's very busy today. He's nice enough to come on with us. We didn't plan it. He comes on every Thursday at 8:05. Just so happens to be the trade deadline. Not too many people are getting Sam Amick today, I don't think. Watch, he's doing like 30
That's all
shows.
he's doing.
Yeah, that's all he's doing. Joining us right now from The Athletic, Sam Amick. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Dave and Kyle. How are you, gentlemen?
We're good. We just talked to Jack Cooley from Jack Cooley checked in from Italy. That was pretty cool.
That was very cool.
Yeah, you remember Jack?
Jack, I do. Sounds like he should have his own show, like Jack Ryan.
He should. Oh, on Amazon, 100%.
Yes.
Hey, before we get into the meat and potatoes, can I, you and I like to go off the rails. I don't want to go too far off the rails because we have a lot of Kings and a lot of trade deadline to happen. But as everybody knows, I'm a huge fan of The Athletic. That is Sam Amick's employer, also with guys like Matt Barrows and Jason Jones, who we know very well. And I want to ask you for a ruling on something. So The Athletic is a pay site, very, very cheap, very, very worth it. We've gone into that before. And what I sometimes like to do is I will screenshot parts of articles. I did it this morning with Jason's article. and
are you really bringing this up?
Well,
I'm just kidding you.
No, I know, but I know you were kidding me. But I actually thought about it way more than I should have. And I was like, okay, what are the ethics here? Because the idea is I see on like different, well, I don't want to put that out there because I want to give people ideas. But Sam, I do always promote and love your guys' work. And I think good journalism should be supported. So what I try to do is I'll take a screenshot of a quote or something.
Like a snippet.
And I'll post it and I'll say, blurb. And I'll say, hey, here's something from Sam's article on bleh. Go to The Athletic and read more. But is that also because you guys are a pay-to-play site, is that kind of intellectual property theft I'm doing too? I am kind of guilty of this.
I mean, there's no official rule.
Right.
And that. So, it's a subjective argument. And I didn't make this clear on Twitter. Yes, I was kidding. And for the listeners, Dave put a snippet up, and I called him a thief on Twitter. You've got a whole lot of capital invested, not only as a subscriber, but as somebody who, without any extra cash in your pocket, constantly promotes our site. So I think in terms of the balance of the scales, I'm not worried about you. But, I mean, overall in the industry, I don't know how to answer that. Like, I see aggregated stories where they, once they start sharing like 100 words, 150 words of an article,
right?
And sure, they provide the link, but I mean, yeah, like in a perfect world for selfish athletic or any subscription service, purposes, you would essentially have one line that says, this is what this story's about. And how good the people are who provide this coverage. And so if you want any of this, it's like, going into a club, like you got to pay the fee. And, that's the deal. But the internet has always been a wild, wild west, and that's just how it is. So, and listen, we don't have the infrastructure to sit there and like when certain aggregators abuse that, we're not going to chase stuff down and have lawyers coming after him. I don't know what the answer is.
Okay.
But, like I'll say this, independent of you, I would be disingenuous if I didn't admit that, like, yeah, it bugs me when fans and readers will do something they like. And I've even seen people kind of shamelessly say, hey, I want to read this. Can somebody help me out? And then somebody else will fire it their way. I mean, that's obviously not the point.
Yeah, that's like downloading music or something for, off the...
I know. What is this, Napster?
Right, come on. Yeah, exactly. Sam Amick joins us. Okay, I think I got it down. I did feel guilty about that.
Don't do it anymore.
Well, but like Sam said, I'm helping. I'm giving a blurb.
Maybe include the link with your blurb.
Nah, I don't
Be
want
like,
to do
click here.
That's actually that is. I'm going to go with Kyle on that one. I will say,
okay,
that's a tiny slap on the wrist for you. Like if you're gonna, include the blurb,
do the link.
then at least, yeah, because the blurb could. I don't think your listeners care about this. We should move on. I think you at least tease them and give them the opportunity to read the rest of it.
All right, duly noted. Sam Amick of The Athletic joins us right now. Sam. All right, let's start in Sacramento. Harrison Barnes, Iman Shumpert. Just give me your base thoughts on both deals.
Weird night, man. You weren't out that last night, were you?
I was not.
Yeah, I mean, it was an odd night. As I was entering Golden One Center, the first trade had already broke. On my drive there, Harrison Barnes' trade had not broken yet. Immediately, I got a phone call from the De'Aaron Fox side of the world indicating that, that deleted tweet that he had put out there was a real thing, that he was pretty frustrated right out the gate.
Yeah.
That, because we all know that they were, Shump had a lot of fans in that locker room. So that, that was kind of part one. And then the Barnes thing where, he was in the middle of the game. So my bottom line, I mean, I like the trades. I understand Shump's value 100%, and he was having a good year until recently. He struggled a lot in the last month. I don't know. I was a little guilty. Like, listen, the Barnes thing is fascinating, and if he's all in, that's a really nice pickup, and you really didn't give much in return, with all due respect to Justin Jackson. But the other side of this is that, the Kings don't have any time to waste when it comes to this playoff race.
Yep.
And so, I don't know. I sound like last night I felt like the grumpy get off my lawn guy in the press room, where I was if you ask me where I fell on the emotions of the evening, I was probably sitting there going, all right, young guys, like you get a night to be in a funk because the trade broke right before the game, and there's a human factor here, and that's tough. But you got a pretty unique opportunity here to keep doing something special. And so I felt like the emotions of last night, to a degree, reflected the youth of the team. And I mean, this is a business, and that stuff happens. And I get that Shump was a major part of the chemistry and the cohesiveness of the team, but they got to keep pushing forward here.
Sam Amick with us. Sam, when you look at the situation as a whole, what Vlade's trying to do, you and I and Kyle kind of joked a couple weeks ago, you'll remember, between Harrison Barnes and Otto Porter. And you started Harrison, you ended Otto. I'm not asking you to change your mind now, but you were partially on the side of Harrison Barnes would be a better fit for Sacramento. So expand on that, if you would, how you think he'll fit in at the 3.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember. I think I went back and actually watched the video of Kyle being crushed.
He was.
when I picked Harrison. I mean, Otto's just, well, let me get to your question. I mean, Harrison is a guy who's a little bit longer in the tooth, but he's just solid. You know what I mean? I've enjoyed watching Harrison this year. He's got, kind of a old school mid-range game that is obviously not a major part of today's NBA, but it's, I think it's still effective. He's a sound player on the defensive end. I saw some of your stats last night about how his defensive rating is right there with Shumpert's. He's a pretty uncomplicated locker room guy in my experience. I think he'll fit in just fine. More importantly, for all of these guys that from management on down and the type of culture they're trying to create, he's a worker. Like he's an obsessive, the type of guy who is trying to maximize that talent that he has, and you don't need to worry about him sloughing off at all. And and he's a guy that has championship experience, and I think all that stuff is big. He's going to be right down the road from that Warriors group that he had a lot of history with, and I'm curious to hear him talk, because I wouldn't be surprised if he's got mixed emotions. The idea, because he was very invested in Dallas. I've talked to him about that this season. In fact, I tried to do a story going down memory lane on the Warriors, and he just really made it clear, like, no, my head's just 100% on trying to build what we have in Dallas. And then they get Porzingis and they got Luka Doncic, and, you know, if you're him, you probably mixed emotions. But, you know, I think he'll be good. And, again, though, the chemistry and the human cultural stuff in the locker room, like, that's to be determined. And we'll see what the vibe is like in the next couple of weeks.
In your gut, it's an impossible question to ask, but in your gut, you think the Kings are, maybe with the exception of a minor pick here, pick there type of move, you think Vlade has completed his task for this trade deadline?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not hearing anything this morning. So, you know, they made most of that, you know, some of that cap room. And, yeah, I mean, we'll see. They trying to think what else they were involved in. I mean, they checked the box. You know, Alec is obviously depth at the wing and swapping out with Shump. I mean, they were in those talks with Atlanta about Jeremy Lin, but I haven't heard anything about that in quite some time.
You heard the Knicks and the De'Aaron Fox thing. Is there anything to that they at least inquired in the Porzingis thing and asked about De'Aaron, and that was pretty quickly rebuffed?
I didn't know that, no.
Okay, yeah.
In fact, I've talked to the Knicks about the Porzingis thing, but they didn't bring up the Kings. I mean, that's not a surprise. You know, I mean, Porzingis is great, but, you know, De'Aaron's the guy right now. And he's, even last night was illuminating in that respect, because the idea that he, you know, my understanding was there was just a small sense that he kind of wished somebody would ask him about, you know, his read on the locker room. Not necessarily saying, hey, should we trade this guy or that guy, but just taking a pulse. But that is kind of indicative of a guy who is realizing that he is at the center of what they're building.
Sam Amick of The Athletic with us. All right, off the Kings real quick. There is a rumor, narrative, whatever you want to call it, that's emerging that it's quite possible that perhaps because they're fed up with everything being public, perhaps they're fed up with the tampering, that the New Orleans Pelicans actually kind of baited the Lakers into what's going on right now with no real intention on trading Anthony Davis, and kind of laughing behind the scenes at the dysfunction that has now landed in L.A. because of all these players possibly coming and going. It's a fun narrative, especially if you don't like the Lakers, but do you think there's anything to that? I'm going to say, you know, I don't independently know that. You and I, how much fun do we have over the years, or have we had, connecting dots? Because that's a big part of the industry, right? And you and I are very good at connecting dots. The longer you do this, the more you can kind of, you know, see the forest for the trees. Brian Windhorst is one of the best in the business. And if he's going to sit on national television and put life into that narrative like he did yesterday, I'm going to listen. And so after Brian did that, and, you know, not that it matters, but quick context in terms of my mindset, like Brian and I came up together in the business. We're beat writers at the same time, go back a long ways. I mean, yes, I think it's very, very possible that that's what happened. In fact, some of the people who reported the most detailed information about the Lakers' offers, you know, and I'm not going to get into this, but, like, I can sit here and say, like, oh, interesting, there's this relationship that I'm very well aware of that would have come in handy. There's that relationship that would have come in handy where, you know, these particular people would have been prime candidates that if you were New Orleans trying to sabotage the Lakers, that's the media, you know, type of media person you would go through, if that makes sense. So, and I have gotten the sense from just talking to other teams that they don't truly believe that New Orleans is really engaging and negotiating with the Lakers, that there is some gamesmanship here. And the backdrop, too, is that, I mean, I think some teams like New Orleans have reached the point where, like, I can't sit here and tell you that all the rumors about Magic Johnson are true when it comes to his tampering. Right.
But I know that the narrative is true. I know that around the league, people think he runs around doing whatever he wants, talking to whoever he wants. And I think that they probably have, some teams have probably lost faith in the system. And the idea that if you really, really push the NBA to pursue tampering charges, that they're actually going to do anything about it. And so maybe this is a case of a team deciding to kind of take matters into its own hands.
Well, and I opined earlier this week about Magic Johnson, who, despite my Laker hatred, I actually obviously love and respect for so many different reasons, but just looking at it with not a lot of gray area, I don't give him a ton of credit for signing LeBron. I felt like that was as much the Laker franchise and geography. I look at the roster he surrounded him with, and you and I talked about this before the season started. It was Beasley and JaVale and Rondo, and you had the LaVar thing, and there was definitely room for combustion, which we're seeing. I'm going to ask you a total Kings Homer-centric question, Sam, and I completely admit it, but I'm not that high on Magic Johnson and the moves he's made and haven't made as a GM. You think if Magic Johnson's name was Vlade Divac, you think the media would be treating him a lot differently as far as a record going as a GM?
I mean, he's getting cracked on.
Yeah.
I really think it's obviously Rob Pelinka too.
Sure.
Kobe's former agent, who's now the GM, and they work together. And I do give him a ton of credit for getting LeBron, to be honest, because LeBron wasn't coming, and maybe Jeannie Buss too. And I've written about this. They had to overhaul the front office. I mean, Jeannie's the one who made the tough choice to get rid of Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak, and whether or not you agree with that move, the way that she structured the new Lakers 2.0, as Magic likes to call it, which makes me laugh because I think Vivek did the same thing in Sacramento.
Right.
Yeah. That is what essentially checked enough boxes so that LeBron was willing to come. LeBron wasn't coming to the world where Jeannie and Jim Buss were arguing and Mitch Kupchak was looking over his shoulder and Jeannie didn't like him. Like Magic and the gravitas that comes with him and the way that he resonates with LeBron when it comes to being a business mogul and a Hall of Fame basketball player, all at the same time. That stuff is why LeBron came. I mean, it's not. I don't think LeBron was coming if it was set up the way it was previously. But the moves you're talking about, 100%, they made mistakes, and I've been banging this drum all year. Like, do I think Luke Walton's a great coach? I don't know yet, but I just look at that roster, and I think it's hilarious that he gets criticized for the Lakers not being able to shoot the ball. Like, they signed all these guys that can't shoot the ball, and so he has stumbled. And he, as far as the tampering stuff. There's kind of perception is reality sometimes, and right now the perception is that because of his name and because of his relationships that, the other teams think that he has absolutely broken the rules when it comes to tampering. And I don't have all the specifics on, hey, on February 27th, he met Paul George last year at a coffee shop. Like,
right.
That's where I'm careful to not, to make sure I say I don't know if it's true.
Right.
But it's wild to see. Like, let's just say that the accusation is accurate that the Pelicans leaked all this stuff to sabotage the Lakers. It was all on display the other night in Indiana.
Yep.
And we'll, and we'll see if it's on display again tonight in Boston. I texted with, actually I think it's harmless to share, but Lonzo Ball's agent the other night, and he made a comment where he's like, these guys are people, man. Like, and Lonzo's not even playing right now, but like, what do you think's going to happen? Look at the Kings last night. The emotional tenor was different because of one player. Like, imagine, and I put a lot of this on LeBron too. LeBron is the one who chose to talk publicly about Anthony Davis. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that if you're talking about trading for Anthony Davis publicly, that is going to require that almost every player in your locker room is exposed to a possible trade, and these are your teammates who you're trying to make a playoff push with. So I'm really curious to see what tonight's game looks like in Boston.
Today is the trade deadline, and your best coverage is going to come from Sam Amick and The Athletic. Follow him online at Sam_Amick. Go to The Athletic, all kinds of fantastic deals. Support great journalism and also give yourself clean layout and all the latest information and extended stories right there in front of you. Just don't copy and paste them. All right, Sam, we appreciate you.
Hey, buddy, can I jam in a shameless and comical plug at the end here?
Please.
Guess what story I'm about to go tweet out, and a story that I was working on a lot of yesterday and did not know that Kevin Durant's press conference was going to go the way it went.
What?
Long read on the Clippers and why they still think they have a shot at Kevin Durant. I'm sure he's going to enjoy that story.
Yeah, he's going to love it. Just, you know what? Just let him play, Sam, okay? You're the Durant whisperer. Just let him play. None of this is his fault, Sam.
Gotta love it.
Okay.
Gotta love it.
Well,
All right, buddy.
Have a great day today, brother. Thank you.
You too. See ya.
That's Sam Amick joining us. We are late for a break. When we return, Mark Followill, play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks.
I like Sam because he greets both of us when he comes on.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, it's
that
really
is nice.
He's the only guest that does that.
Jack
Jack
didn't
did.
greet you? Come on.
He's the only regular guest who does that.
Mark Followill is not a regular guest. His first appearance on the drive coming up in just moments. Kyle has his contact info, nice enough to come on with us, and we will talk to Harrison Barnes, or about Harrison Barnes, when we come back right here on the drive. Sports 1140 KHTK.
Hey, this is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Kings' 7-game home winning streak came to an end last night with a 127-101 loss to the Houston Rockets. James Harden had 36 points. It was his 28th consecutive game with 30-plus. Buddy Hield led the way for the Kings with a team-high 20 points and 10 rebounds. Sacramento's off today. They host the Miami Heat at the Golden One Center tomorrow. The Kings were also active ahead of the NBA trade deadline. That's today at noon. They made a couple of deals, one sending Amon Shumpert to Houston as part of a 3-team trade with the Cavs. Sacramento acquired shooting guard Alec Burks from Cleveland in that deal. Later in the evening, the Kings shipped Justin Jackson and Zach Randolph, shipped their contracts to Dallas in exchange for forward Harrison Barnes. We'll have breakdowns of those trades and any others throughout the day right here on Sports 1140. It's 8:31. Time to get that perfect Valentine's Day gift at Sharif Jewelers. Spend $99 or more and receive a pearl bracelet at Sharif Jewelers. Those are your top stories. Now back to the drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Nice.
That's a good one. That came from right here. Got in the chest.
More of the drive starts now.
Moving right along, and our thanks to Samuel Amick of The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com. So many good deals there. And just check them out. Such a clean layout. Fantastic information. Also, Jason Jones has an article that he put out either late last night or early this morning. I think late last night because it was there when I got up, on the Sacramento Kings, a lot of their reactions to the trades. And he had a lot of quotes from Willie Cauley-Stein. I will read some of them to you, but I do suggest you read his article. We played some of the audio earlier. Mark Followill, play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks, will join us in just a couple minutes. Great guy. Agreed to come on today and talk about the newest King, Harrison Barnes. He's ready in about 3 minutes, Kyle. Willie Cauley-Stein about the trade yesterday. Quote, "I've run my ass off every day with these dudes. It's hard when you build friendships. You get brotherhoods, and they say they didn't even know. They just show up and they're gone. That's trash. It's a crazy business." He created a movement here, talking about Amon Shumpert. "I'd like to think he had the chemistry on point, him and Justin Jackson both. So it was real quiet all around today. It was real quiet. The energy was done, and in the building, the energy was weird. Who's the first people you hear when you walk into our locker room? Shump and JJ. That energy is gone, and it ain't going to come back. That's 4 months of getting to know these guys. It's going to be weird, and finally, we're not the same team as we were yesterday. It's got to be a new energy, a new movement. That's what they want." Okay.
Welcome to the NBA.
I mean, I am torn. It's real easy to drag Willie for this.
Right.
I understand the loyalty. I understand the emotion.
Sure.
And if you know anything about Willie at this point, you know he really does not care what he sounds like. He's going to say what is on the top of his mind, regardless of, and I respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in this instance where this just happened. You just learned that one of your best friends is moving across the country.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to walk up and go, "Hey, how do you feel? You didn't get a chance to hang out and go to dinner and stuff and have a going away party. You had to play a basketball game right after finding out. Tell us how you feel."
Right.
And he's pissed. Or I don't want to say pissed. That's wrong.
It's certainly
he's upset.
Upset. At the same time, I'm trying to think, other than Costa Koufis and not counting Barnes and Burks, but along with Costa, at least, Willie is the senior player on the team. Willie has the longest tenure on the Sacramento Kings. I mean, at some point, you got to kind of lead the way there, too. You look at guys like De'Aaron Fox, who clearly was not happy with the move. And you don't want him to be. What are they supposed to do? Go, yeah, see ya, Iman, see ya, Justin. Lates. Of course they're not going to do that. But you hear things out of De'Aaron and Buddy like, okay, we hate it. We get attached to these guys. We love them. We miss them. But we have a job to do, and we're going to do it. And we're going to move forward, and it's a business. I would have liked to have seen something like that out of Willie. You know, as I said, I've said all year, I don't think Willie will be back next year. I do think it's becoming sort of apparent Nikola Vucevic is certainly a huge target for the Kings this summer. And when you look at the tea leaves, I think they really had their lineup locked in 1 through 4. With De'Aaron Fox, he's going nowhere. Buddy Hield, he's going nowhere. Harrison Barnes, they just traded for him and want to sign him to an extension. Marvin Bagley, obviously their big bad draft pick, who's doing fantastic. Even a Harry Giles. The 5 is the one uncertain. But I'd still like to see a little bit of a different quote there. All right, joining us right now, nice enough. That's what I love about Twitter. There's so much not good about Twitter, but occasionally you find nice people. You reach out to them. Mark Followill just called the Dallas Mavericks game last night. I reached out to him via Twitter, and he was nice enough to exchange information and join us this morning to talk about the newest Sacramento King, Harrison Barnes. Mark, it's Dave. That's Kyle over there. Thanks for joining us this morning. How are you?
I'm great. Grant Napier retweets you so much, so I feel like I already know you, Dave.
Well, there now I actually feel, please, if you've never done anything smart before online, mute me. You don't want any part of it. Exciting year for you guys, and it's always a very touchy subject here in Sacramento because we had the Bagley-Doncic argument and all that, but at risk of upsetting some of our fans, it seems Luka has been a revelation for you guys. You now have Porzingis in the slot for next year. Seems like things are definitely on the way up in Dallas.
Absolutely they are. There's a lot to be excited about here, and that's why a lot of the things have happened over the course of the last week that have happened with the Mavs, which is the efforts to put together a team around Luka that they want and to now add players or put themselves in a position to start adding the players then with the profiles that they feel like will fit well around Luka and Kristaps Porzingis moving forward. So it's been a lot of fun and very exciting. There's still much work to do from the Mavs perspective, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel after some tough years here.
Mark, what caught my eye on Twitter, you had sent out a tweet saying, seeing Harrison Barnes stay on the bench and support his soon-to-be former teammates in the fourth quarter tonight was so impressive, an incredible example of the consummate professional and teammate he has been here and will be in Sacramento. Much respect to a great dude. That blew me away. You saw the graphic on the TV broadcast where they announced the trade via, I believe, Bleacher Report. Then he left. He comes back. I don't know that I've ever seen that before, and I think that certainly speaks volumes from your words to his character.
Well, look, when it comes to being a stand-up guy and involved in the community and dignity and selflessness and being a first-class guy in every way, shape, or form, I mean, all of those things are adjectives and superlatives that would describe what Harrison Barnes is in the time that I've got to be around him over the last 2.5 years. He's a great man, who I think very, very, very highly of. As far as last night goes, things have changed, as you know, Dave, in the world of social media. I don't think anything's really any different in terms of the timeline of how trades are done between teams these days. But now leaks happen, and unfortunately this is one of those times when the trade was agreed upon between the teams during the game, and then the leak happens, and it all comes out in a wash to be a weird situation. But I thought that was look, we talk about all these things in this business, and I'm sure that one of the things that draws you to talking about sports, and you like to talk about sports, is it should teach us a lot in terms of life lessons, and part of that is about being a good teammate, and teammate doesn't just apply to sports. I mean, I think I'm saying that on a broader scale about the people that you have relationships with and work with in life, and it would be very easy for him to have wanted to go hide somewhere, but he thought the more important thing was I've been teammates for these guys, some of them for the last 2.5 years, and I'm going to be here to support these guys and not make it about me and sneak off to the locker room. I'm going to be here and be the best teammate I can for these next few minutes.
So well said. Mark Followill joining us, play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks. And, I think the Kings might be a little bit at fault for the adjustments on the trade deadline. You recall the DeMarcus Cousins trade during All-Star Weekend, and the NBA didn't really want to repeat any of that. So now we see a situation like last night. And as sad as it was, and you do feel for Harrison Barnes, and out here we felt for Justin Jackson, who was informed just before game time and visited with his teammates at halftime. These are real people, despite the fact that they're millionaires. And I completely get that some guy roofing right now doesn't have a lot of sympathy. But also, a lot of questions, Mark, from our end about, well, why couldn't this be done after the game? Why couldn't you announce it later? And I'm sure you can speak on it. With leaks in the media, with physicals, with injury risks, it just doesn't seem that that's very realistic.
Yeah. Just to touch maybe a little bit more and elaborate a little bit more on what I said a minute ago. Trades are done in the NBA between teams, I think, still in the way they were done 20 or 30 years ago. And that is that, in this particular case, Donnie Nelson and people that he works with that know the cap, that know the contracts and all that stuff are having a talk with Vlade and the people that work with Vlade in terms of knowing the numbers and this trade is legal or this trade isn't legal based on cap room and the salaries matching and all that sort of thing. And so those parties are together on the phone. They, a long time ago would agree in principle to a trade. And then they would call agents, and agents would notify players, and they would call players directly, and then the team would issue a press release. Well, now we live in a much, much different world where there's breaking news, there's an immediate platform, multiple platforms for that breaking news to be shared, and leaks come from, I think, a lot of times agents. I know a lot of people have actually even seen, you and I both have had our mentions blow up in the last 12 to 14 hours, quite obviously. Yep. And I've seen some people arguing, like Mavs fans arguing, well, I'm sure the Kings leaked it, and Kings fans saying, well, I'm sure the Mavs leaked it. And I bet that Niner team probably leaked it. A lot of these guys, and they're great reporters. The Shams and Woj and Mark Stein and all these guys are great reporters. They are very, very well connected, and a lot of their connections come through agents and things like that. And so that's where you learn a lot about the details of these trades. But, the difference between now and 20 years ago is, that process, whenever agents and players were notified about a trade, was able to be done in a much more private, clandestine manner. And now there's these platforms and all this breaking news, and there's immediacy, and it's a great thing in one way, but also it's a difficult thing in another way because this sort of information gets out before teams plan for it to get out. But as far as the trade itself goes, just remember, and I know I'm kind of long-winded about this, but there's a lot to cover here. When it breaks on Twitter, that doesn't mean that the trade is done. Like I said, agents and players are getting notified, leaks are coming out, and then I think from the Mavs perspective, I don't know about Sacramento, but the trade wasn't completed and I's dotted and T's crossed and in a position to publicly announce it until about 12:40 a.m. Central Time, I think is when I got the email from the Mavs last night. So that probably matches up pretty close with your timeline out there.
Our new friend Mark Followill, nice enough to join us this morning to talk about Harrison Barnes. Not only can we talk to Mark in the future about basketball, but a fellow soccer broadcaster. You're an MLS guy. I'm a USL guy hoping to be MLS soon. And Mark also 6 Lone Star Emmys, Texas Sportscaster of the Year in 2018. He likes to run. He loves Greyhounds, knows a little Spanish.
You're reading my Twitter bio.
That's at MF, as in Mark Followill on Twitter. I am reading your bio. It's a phenomenal bio, and I look forward to if you'll allow us to talk to you not only about basketball but about soccer here in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing everybody should know about Barnes, besides all of the superlatives we mentioned about what a guy is, he's worked hard on this game for 2.5 years here with Dallas. He's a better ball handler. He's a better driver to the basket, although his numbers went down in terms of how often he was driving this year with Luka having the ball more. But we have a player development coach here in Dallas. Everybody that remembers college basketball from the 90s probably remembers Sham God.
Yeah.
He's a player development coach to help all players on the Mavs roster with ball handling skills, and Harrison has worked many, many hours with Sham over the course of the last couple of years to get better in terms of taking the ball to the basket. And as the NBA is changing, Barnes' game really was a very predominantly mid-range based game. 2 years ago, he took 6 mid-range shots a game, and by mid-range, I mean from the paint out to the three-point line. He dropped that number to 4 last year. That number is down to 2 this year as he's trying to adapt his game to what people want in the league now, which, as you know, is try to avoid mid-range shots more frequently in favor of either getting the ball to the basket or taking more three-pointers. And in Harrison's case, it's a lot more three-pointers and a lot fewer mid-range shots. And there was a point in time this year that Harrison was at 42% from the three-point line. Numbers have dropped in the last 15 games. I would suspect probably, hearing a lot of rumors for the last month about your name being mentioned in trade talks probably didn't exactly help the shooting percentage some. But the Harrison Barnes in the first 2 months of the year for the Mavs was a dynamite catch-and-shoot, particularly three-point guy, and I look forward to seeing what he can add to Sacramento moving forward.
That's great stuff from Mark Followill, dropping the knowledge on the pride of Providence God, Sham God, not only the greatest name in college basketball history, also a basketball move actually named after him, the Sham God. I love it, Mark. I appreciate it, and I hope you'll let us give you a call in the future.
Anytime, Dave. Take care and send my best to Grant and send my best to Harrison when you get a chance to talk to him. We think very, very highly of him here, obviously.
I absolutely will do both. That is Mark Followill, play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks. Great knowledge on Harrison Barnes, and good enough to let us run through that break. So we'll take a break right now. Yes, Kyle.
He said take care, Kyle.
Did he really?
Yeah. First time I've ever talked to that guy. We're getting him on.
He's a professional. He's an absolute professional. Did you introduce yourself when you...
Yeah, I just said, hey, this is Kyle at 1140.
See that?
And he already... See, I'm finding out when the Kings play the Mavs again, and we're getting him on.
New friend in Mark Followill when we come back.
He turns to whoever he's sitting next to. He's like, oh, my gosh, those guys were the worst.
What's on tap is next. Sports 1140 KHTK. What's on tap? I'll take care of this. Brought to you by LaVar Ball. I see him, and Kyle pointed him out to me. I see him on FS1. Let's do a live check-in real quick and see if he's currently slaughtering the Lakers.
Odds are like $1 billion.
$1 billion. You know what's the odds of coming in the league with your own brand? How about $4 billion to 1?
Mm-hmm.
But what if it doesn't happen? What do you mean? I'm gonna keep working until it does. I'm gonna keep working until it does, and guess what? It's going to happen. Somebody gonna be out there and say, you know what? This really works.
How good could the youngest son become?
The youngest son could be the best one on the fact that he gets to watch the other two. Jello has the potential to be the best on the fact that he's the biggest and the strongest.
What is he now height-wise?
Who's that? Melo?
Yeah.
Melo's 6'7".
6'7".
Melo's 6'7".
On his way to, could he be 6?
I told him he's going to be the tallest. He's about 6'8", 6'9", easy. Okay. Everybody's going to be over 6'6", because I'm 6'6". So everybody's 6'6" and above on the fact that they get a couple more inches from my wife being 6'1".
Science.
True. So, LaMelo.
Yes.
Okay, Kyle, you've been following this. He's just we picked him up on Phoenix Radio yesterday. He's just been torching the Lakers all day.
Yeah. Today he said that he guaranteed the Lakers will never win a championship if they trade Lonzo.
Okay.
And then he said that Lonzo is better than LeBron.
Of course he did. Of course he said Lonzo is better than LeBron.
He's just taking a flamethrower to the Lakers right now, and
so
it's amazing.
He's doing everything he can to get this thing going.
Yeah.
You think he's afraid of LeBron? Let me ask.
Were you a little afraid of LeBron, like the reaction LeBron would have?
I'm not afraid of Jesus.
We should probably isolate that. LaVar Ball, not afraid of Jesus. I love it. I don't love hearing LaVar Ball's voice, but weirdly, the enemy of my enemy, LaVar Ball and I are like, I'm not going to say we just became best friends, but I am huge fans of LaVar Ball and the New Orleans Pelicans this week because they are making the Lakers and Laker fans go absolutely nuts. And as a Kings fan, you got to enjoy it.
There we go.
Oh, we fine.
So you make the best of a bad situation.
Yes, and so that's the route he has to go.
I got
now,
you here.
Where everybody.
You got me here.
Somebody gonna play.
We doing good because we close in age. We got a lot of the same. And then you ruined it by talking about Lonzo is better than LeBron. You know that's not true. You know that.
Why?
What you mean? Why?
Why? Because LeBron been in the league for 15 years. I mean, how do you judge LeBron being better than my son? I ain't gonna say nobody better than my son.
It's okay if it's the truth.
But if my son can play, which I know what I put into
We're not saying he can't
as
play.
far as shooting and passing and playing and running, LeBron hurt. He getting old. He getting old.
LaVar.
He getting old.
LaVar.
I tell you this, he can't guard Lonzo on that fast break.
LaVar.
Can't move that fast.
Your guy's shooting 23% from the
You can
three-point
shoot
line.
10%.
40% from the free throw line. How can he be better than the GOAT?
You talking about percentages shooting on free throws? Don't tell me about no free throws.
Okay, what about the
He been in the
free
league for a long time. What was LeBron shooting from the free throw line?
Like 60%.
I can tell you what. He been in the league a long time
He
to
never-
not be able to make no free throws.
He ain't
where
never
get
shot
the-
40%.
He ain't got to shoot 40%.
He ain't never shot 20% from the three-point line.
He ain't got to shoot 20%.
Okay.
All right, as we got to end here. A lot of people on the text line. You know, I don't want to go to the well too much because he's a busy man. But we can't complete today's show without getting some thoughts from Tim Rome. We'll start first. Tim, your thoughts on LaVar Ball saying his son Lonzo is better than LeBron James.
Lonzo Ball is better than LeBron James? Lonzo Ball's not even better than Gloria James. If you put Lonzo Ball with Gloria James in the three-point contest, my money's on Gloria all day. Get out of here with that, LaVar.
What do you think about the Kings' moves? Harrison Barnes, Ramon Shumpert, also Justin Jackson. Well, you know, separate trades. The Kings get Harrison Barnes, Tim. Your thoughts?
I love what the Sacramento Kings are doing. They've just been up there biding their time, being the team that nobody pays attention to. And what we've all been ignoring is that they are building a juggernaut. Harrison Barnes has a championship pedigree. Alec Burks does not. I got nothing, right?
How do you feel about our guests today? We had Jack Cooley and Sam Amick on.
Oh, I love Jack Cooley. Are you kidding me? Jungle legend.
Sam Amick, you've had him on.
Sam Amick got some good jungle karma today on the trade deadline.
Mark Followill, play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
That's all I got for him.
Your thoughts on Eunice? She did a great job today.
Oh, Eunice always does a great job. Back here in the XR4 Ti.
What do you think of Kyle?
Hate him.
All right, Kyle's coming back in the room.
I hope a mountain lion runs up on Kyle Madsen and actually wins this time. I'm not taking mountain lion in a lot of fights, but a mountain lion kicked Kyle Madsen's ass, I'll tell you that. Yeah, that's an easy pick.
Thanks to Tim Rome for joining us. Kyle, as you take your chair back, how much time do we have here?
0 time.
Okay, well, for all of everyone, including Tim Rome, Mark Followill, Sam Amick, and Jack Cooley. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. to wrap up the week. Trade deadline, wall-to-wall coverage all day long. Damian and Jason, noon to 3. Doug and Grant, 3 to 7. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 6. Enjoy the rest of your broadcast. And Sports 1140 KHTK. Bye-bye now.